Hello there YouTube, it's me Keltick back again today to teach you the basics of Smite. Today we are focusing on Yemoja. We're going to talk about how to play Yemoja, we're going to talk about how to build Yemoja, and we're going to talk about all the basics you need to understand in order to succeed with Yemoja. So let's dive in. We're going to start by talking about the passive. As you can see, Yemoja does not have mana. She instead has a different resource known as Omi. And Yemoja's three primary abilities do not incur a cooldown, so you can spam them to your heart's content as long as you have this magical resource. They do not have a cooldown. Now, further to this, Yemoja is going to go and acquire more Omi throughout the game. There's three ways of doing this. Two of them are really simple. You either hit level 6, you hit level 14, you're automatically going to get an additional Omi to your source. The third one requires from building into mana or MP5. Once you have 300 built mana or MP5, you are going to get access to a third Omi. Okay, that's the passive. The other half of the passive is if you auto attack allies, they're going to get buffed. You can see here that Odin's kind of glowing. That buff gives Odin very minor healing, but an interesting passive that is going to make Odin have additional increased healing, 10% increased healing on Odin. Okay, so that's the basics of the passive. Let's talk about the actual kit now. If we move over to the bad Odin bots, basically the first ability has two forms. The first is a bubble. It bounces twice and then it explodes and bounces, explodes and has little particle effects for the third hit. The second part goes and calls down these beams of light. So let's talk about this again. This one, the bubbles, each bubble slows enemies' hit and does damage. This one is a little bit more complicated. There's 5 rings here. The outer rings do jack shit, they just do damage. The middle ring is the big ring. It does a lot more damage, and if you hit it, the enemies get stunned. It's a lot more useful. Okay, so that's the basics of the first ability. It costs 2 Omi, and it switches per cast in between the two forms. Now the second ability, it has 2 phases, I'm going to call it, and it depends on what you're hitting. If you're hitting an enemy, it is going to deal damage. Most importantly here is it does bonus damage to shields. And at max rank, as you can see, it's going to deal 3 times the amount it normally does if the opponent is shielded. Now, moving over to allies, if you're going to hit an ally, they are going to get healed and they are going to get shielded. 2 phases. Now, there you go. So you can see it automatically bounces around to a bunch of different allies that are within the range. And most importantly, it does a heal and it does a shield. Okay, so there's 2 phases. Remember, those are 2 distinct things. You are healing and you're shielding. Now, the third ability has troll potential, but I will say, this is my Celtic disclaimer, don't troll your teammates, okay? Now, the third ability, you place a vortex on the ground. This vortex is going to displace anything that walks in it outside of like Fire Giant and Gold Fury. Okay, so you place this down on the ground, and then if an ally walks through it, allies gain increased protections and increased movement speed as a buff after you go through. So again, specific numbers for those of you that care. 30% increased movement speed, 40% or 40 flat physical and magical protections. Enemies, on the other hand, that walk through this fly a shorter distance and are going to be slowed. Okay, so on top of the displacement, they are also going to be slowed. So let's take a, I actually can't displace those, but what we're going to do is I want you to take a look at the targeter because the targeter is very important here. If you are in blue, you are going to be flying forward. If it's red or orange, then they're going to be flying backwards. This is a powerful displacement tool for you to catch an enemy and throw them towards your team. Look at how far we can displace a friendly Odin. Granted, remember, enemies do not fly as far, and I'm going boom. So as you can see, the enemy Odin does not fly as far, but the enemy Odin is going to be slowed whenever he gets, pushed into the vortex. This is a very good setup tool. It's very powerful. We love the third ability. Now for the fourth ability or ultimate, you basically just summon a giant river. As you can see, you block the entire channel. You can make great traps with this ability, and worst comes to worst, you can also make your own trap and force it. But one of the most powerful parts of this ultimate is as long as Yemoja is standing in the river, she's going to receive a buff that increases her Omi regeneration, which allows her to spam more abilities while this ultimate is active. So let's look at this again. We trap Odin. We can also spam our abilities. If you don't have a wall, you can place the third ability and make them stay in the water. Now, when the water crashes, that's obviously going to deal damage, but it also does an initial slow that starts at 90% of a slow. That's a huge slow, and then it slowly decreases over time. Now, as I said, this acts as a player-made wall, but what's important here is allies can walk through this wall no problem. Enemies are the only ones that are trapped. Yemoja and all of her allies can walk through the wall without having a single problem. So this is a good escape tool for your team. It's a good peel option. It's a good trapping tool. This ultimate has a lot of utility. And like I said, it also increases your Omi regeneration rate, and that is a powerful boon. You're going to do the Guardian's Blessing start of Guardian's Blessing, Boots 1, 4 health pots, and a hog, and then your choice of relic. I like Sprint. Now, that's going to get you to lane, have fun, go nuts. Now, for the core of the build, you're going to go into Shoes of Focus. It gives you power. It gives you the mana that you're going to need to get that third Omi. And then other stats. It's a boot. You need a boot. From there, you go Gauntlet of Thebes because it's the best support item in the game, and you are playing support. From there, Relic Dagger. After Gauntlet of Thebes is your best chance to build Relic Dagger because you are very tanky. You have a lot of health. Relic Dagger is a cheap item that gives you even more health that is going to work well with the protections you've already acquired with Gauntlet of Thebes. From there, you're going to look to bolster your other defenses with a Sovereignty and a Heartward Amulet. And then the final item after you sell your Blessing is going to be a Shogun's Kasari. At full build, you are finally going to have access to that final Omi. But this build as a whole makes you a huge threat. Remember, our playstyle is stand with the carries and keep them alive, or set up from afar. Either way, you're standing with carries. Your carries are going to have 10 of each protection, another 15 physical protection and extra HP 5, another 15 magical protection and increased MP 5, and then an attack speed buff, which works really well with the meta carry build right now, where if they're overcapping on attack speed, they just gain power. So it's a win-win there. Now, for relics, you'll see that I have upgraded Sprint and upgraded Shell. Upgraded Sprint, great. Gives everyone around you the haste effect, which means they don't incur the basic attack movement penalty. Great for keeping your carries safe. Great for making your hunters be able to pop off. Now, from there, upgraded Shell. Shell gives block stacks. Block stacks are very strong. Block stacks means that they don't take damage from an auto attack. Block stacks are good. If you can put block stacks on your carries when an assassin is diving, especially an assassin like, say, a Loki or a Kali or a Daji, it completely invalidates them for a few seconds, which gives you time to peel them away. Now, those are the relics. Again, that's what I like to run. And then with Relic Dagger, they are coming up so much more often than the opponent is going to realize. Now that is the basics on how to both play and build Yemoja. If you liked this video, subscribe to this channel. We are all about making you understand Smite better, one video at a time. If you have any requests, leave them in the comment section down below. But other than that, I'm out of time. I'll see you guys in the next one. And don't forget to keep it casual. Take care, guys.